I'd like to welcome in now from the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association of Grain Valley, Missouri, Louis Pugh, who testified on Capitol Hill last week. Louis, great to see you. Before we talk about your testimony, what was your initial reaction, particularly to these recent thefts? You know, seeing that video that was in a Chicago area right there. What was your reaction when you see that?
Thank you for having me, and probably less surprised than our viewers that are watching this now, and even probably maybe you folks, because this is something that we've seen start to raise its head shortly as the economy kind of went into the downturn after COVID. We represent small business truckers and employee drivers, but a biggest small business truckers, which is that makes up 96% of all the fleets out there are small business. And what we started to see this a couple years ago, and our guys were getting scammed on loads or getting told to take loads to different places, deliver them, find out that they were stolen, or their identity was stolen by them. Their identity was stolen as a good motor carrier by someone bad, and then they went and stole the load under that good motor carrier's name. So this is something that's just been growing and growing and growing out of the downturn in COVID. So it was no surprise to me. I've been pretty much on this, and the unfortunate truth of this is, as far as for my members and small business truckers, it's put a lot of them completely out of business because one of these things happen to them, whether it's their identity stolen, or they deliver a load that got stolen, or they just take a load and never get paid for delivering that load, which happens a lot. I mean, that's enough money. Some of that can be up into the hundreds of thousands, and it wipes a small business trucker out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Louis, as I said, I mean, this happened in the Chicago area. So this was, not only made obviously national news, but it was all over the news here locally too. And it's so frustrating when you see that. So obviously, people who have been impacted by this. Talk about your testimony on Capitol Hill last week. What all did you say?
Yeah, I talked about it. Let them know how easy this is. I mean, this doesn't take a big expansive crime network, although we know some are, of course, but to get these things, because a lot of these people are just stealing people's or companies' identities, whether it's a trucker or a broker. All that information's out there on government sites where you have to register. Talked about things that they need to do as far as tightening up these registrations. Another big thing that we see a lot that I brought up last week are these people use fictitious addresses, or they use like PO boxes at like a UPS store or some sort of general like that. We've seen up to 4 to 5 different perpetrators using the same address, one of these kind of boxes. So there's way in there, but unfortunately right now it's almost a perfect crime because there's no real government agency that either understands it or even has oversight over some of this. FMCSA, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, they're kind of over trucking under DOT. As far as the trucking part of this, which 70% of all goods are moved via truck only, and they're first in line. They know who is a registered motor carrier, who is a registered broker, who they would be the first people to be able to figure this out. But they don't really have the resources or the authority to go after this. So we're asking Congress and the president to give them the resources to be able to go after these folks and give them civil penalties and stuff. There's actually a bill in Congress right now, the Household Movers Good Act, that will give them that ability. Plus, it will make all these brokers who the fictitious brokers, it'll make them have a real address, a physical address where you can find them. They won't be allowed to use PO boxes. Motor carriers have had to do that for years, but brokers have not. So these are two things that can be done quickly to help in some of this and ease some of this fraud on truckers, on the rail, and on consumers, because you're right. Consumers are the ones that have to pay for this stuff.
Absolutely. All right, Lou, I'd like you to try to go and look at this from the other side. Why do you think these criminals are willing to take the risk of doing something this dangerous? And, an example, the thing that happened here in Chicago, doing it on live television even, because those news helicopters were flying overhead, with cameras rolling, and we saw all of those people. Yeah, so, these helicopters weren't hiding, but you see all these people, they don't care. They're still going on, very much out in the open, taking this stuff. Why are people willing to take that risk?
because right now it's not much of a risk. Unfortunately, nobody's enforcing this. I mean, my members, when we call FMCSA and stuff, originally they were telling us to go to local law enforcement. Well, local law enforcement doesn't understand anything about trucking and how the broker and all this. They know, and then they've told FBI or DOJ, and it's like nobody's educated. So why these people are doing it is because it's very easy. It's very simple to do. And again, there's just not a lot of enforcement.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.